Telefon. Hare Krishna. Vielen Dank fürs Kommen mit den Segnungen der Gottgeweihten. Wir haben ein Sankirtan-Seminar hier in Köln, heute und morgen, und am Sonntag gibt es auch noch was. So, heute werden wir die Einführung machen in das Thema. Morgen ist Srimad Bhagavatam-Klasse und am Vormittag gibt es dann noch eine praktische Einleitung zu, wie man Bücher verteilt. Dann am Nachmittag gehen wir raus und verteilen zusammen. Und dann haben wir noch eine Session als, wie sagt man, Recap, eine Zusammenfassung. Und am Sonntag sind dann mehr die technische Seite. Früher hat Mangalananda Prabhu diese Einführungsseminare gemacht in die Buchverteilung. Wer von euch hat daran schon teilgenommen? Okay, die anderen haben wahrscheinlich davon gehört. Es ist normal, dass man eine neue Tätigkeit in Angriff nimmt, dass man instruiert wird. Wenn Leute in einem Fastfood-Restaurant arbeiten, wie lange werden die angelernt? In Amerika müssen die 2 Wochen zur Schulung gehen, damit sie lernen, wie sie die Brötchen drehen können. Ja. Aber wir haben neue Leute, wir schicken die einfach auf die Straße und sagen denen, okay, schau mal, wie es kommt. Ne? Aber es ist gut, wenn man ein bisschen die Grundlagen kennt. So, das wird der Ablauf sein. Einige von euch kenne ich schon. Bin sehr froh, meinen alten Gönner Bhakti Swami Maharaj hier zu sehen. Seine Segnungen und Erlaubnis, wenn wir über das Thema der transzendentalen Buchverteilung sprechen. Also von Rajendra Kumar und ein paar bekannte Gesichter und ein paar neue Gesichter. Es ist schön zu sehen, dass ihr hier seid. Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Aschatya Rishatarine. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Sankirtan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Gaur Premanandi. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadhati Swapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Sri Gurudinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Wer von euch versteht kein Englisch? So, du brauchst Übersetzung auf Deutsch oder auf Russisch? Okay. Gibt es jemanden, der das übersetzen kann für Sie? Von Englisch. Ja. Wir haben hier Sankirtan TV International, so wir machen das auf Englisch. Before we start any project, what is the first thing we do? Prayer. Why is prayer the first thing that we do?
To have the blessings smoothly.
To have the blessings, yes. Also,
To go everything smoothly.
so everything can go smoothly, yes. What's another meaning and purpose of prayer?
We are doing this for everything for Him.
We're doing it all for Krishna, yes. And we become aware who we're doing it for, and why we're doing it, and what we're doing. That is the first question that we should ask ourselves. But before we start any endeavor, we start with prayer. Because we realize that I cannot do this. I'm incapable of doing this. Only by Krishna's grace am I capable to do anything. So that's why when people ask you, why do you get up early? Why do you chant Hare Krishna? Why do you have all these prayers? It's because I have to be aware of why am I doing, what am I doing, and who am I doing it for. If these three things are not clear, you're not going to do anything of magnitude. So, brings us to the question, what are we trying to do? Any suggestions? What is it that we're trying to achieve here?
To be conscious.
To be?
To be conscious, to get conscious.
To be conscious, yes.
To be aware of what's going on.
Yes.
What we are, and what is the purpose. And
Because we have to be conscious before we can be Krishna conscious. We have to be awake. We have to be aware. That's called Sambandha Gyan. Have you heard of Sambandha Gyan? In the Vedic epistemology, there are three components: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha is knowledge of identity. In the Vedic, you start out with divinity, with Krishna. And then the jiva, the living entity, and what is the relationship between them. That's called Sambandha Gyan, or knowledge about identity and relationship. And that leads to Abhideya. What is Abhideya? Process, yes. It's the interaction. If you don't know who you are and what the other person is, there's not going to be a very good relationship. There's not going to be a very good collaboration. So then there is the interaction, and then there is prayojana, which is the goal. What is the objective? What are we trying to achieve? So what are we trying to do here?
Spread the Krishna consciousness all over the world.
Spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's a pretty bold mission. No. Huh? Srila Prabhupada once said that I want to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere at once. That's a pretty big mission. It's pretty broad. And I believe that each and every one of us has got a place in that vision of Srila Prabhupada to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere at once. I think everybody can find their place in that vision of Prabhupada. We'll talk more about vision and mission. Oftentimes we get too busy doing things because we just want to achieve results, right? We talked about this on our walk today, right? That we want to be productive, we want to get things done, we want to feel useful. But oftentimes, life is not all about just efficiency, but we also have to be effective. Are we actually achieving the objective? Are we actually moving forward in our ultimate interest? What is our ultimate interest? What is our ultimate goal?
To go back to Godhead.
Go back home, back to Godhead, yes. Achieve the mercy of Krishna and the Guru Parampara. So it's important to be aware of those things, otherwise we may get caught up in, oh, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that, I want to achieve that, and all of a sudden years go by, decades go by. And although we have ticked off so many of the boxes and we have achieved, we have been successful in so many ways, still we're feeling that something is not quite right, something is missing. Have you ever had that experience in your life?
Yes.
Huh? You all have done a few things in your life, right? And sometimes when we look back, we have to admit that maybe the journey was more interesting than the destination, that it wasn't really worth it. But Krishna consciousness is different, because Krishna consciousness, the process and the goal is non-different. So any step we take towards Krishna, Krishna is always grateful, and he always remembers what we have done for him. Can you give us a verse that substantiates that claim? That Krishna is always grateful for whatever the devotees do for him. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mamavartmanuvartante manushya partha sarvashaha. That as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. Krishna also says, everybody's on my path. I help everybody to progress on this path of Krishna consciousness. So, the mission is spreading Krishna consciousness that is called Sankirtan. Kirtan is the chanting of the holy name, and Sankirtan is Samyak Kirtan. It is the complete chanting of the holy name of Krishna, which means that we're not just doing it alone by ourselves, but we're doing it in a complete unit, in a congregation, with as many persons that we can somehow gather. In that way, we're trying to glorify Krishna. And that is very pleasing to Krishna. So, Satatam kirtayanto mam yadantascha dridhavrata namashyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Krishna has stated in many parts of the Bhagavad Gita that my devotees are always hearing and chanting about my glories and spreading those glories. In fact, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says something very beautiful. I'll tell you a little story, and that'll be part of it. In 1996, I was in Novosibirsk, Siberia. Anybody here from Siberia?
Yes.
You know. It was January. It was minus 35 degrees, which is kind of standard. It's kind of average, right? Gets down to minus 60 sometimes. Very cold. So, one devotee told me the story that he was out in the city distributing books, and he met another devotee who was distributing books, and he asked him, Prabhu, from which temple are you? And that devotee said, I don't know any Prabhu, and I don't know any temple. And he thought that was really odd, that was really strange, because he's distributing books and he doesn't know who a Prabhu is and he doesn't know what a temple is. So he was a little puzzled. So he said, how come you're here? What are you doing here? And that person said, look, 2 years ago, I bought a Bhagavad Gita. In fact, I need a Bhagavad Gita. Can you get me a Bhagavad Gita here? Thank you. I met a devotee, I met a person. It's okay, it doesn't matter which language. Yeah. We're not biased here. Okay, thank you. So 2 years ago, I met a devotee here on the same street, and he gave me a Bhagavad Gita. And I read it. And it's the best book that I've ever read in my life. And at the end of the book, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, says that if you want to become dear to me, you have to give this knowledge to other people. Who knows the verse? 18th chapter. This is Bhakti Shastri Plus. Any idea? Where does Krishna say that if you give this knowledge to others, you'll become dear to me? Nacha tasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakritamaha. That's the verse. You can look it up and read it. It's part of your homework. And then he decided that I want to do this because I want to become dear to Krishna. And what did he do? He went to the copy shop and he had 100 copies, Xerox copied. When was the last time you Xerox copied something? Maybe some form, 2 or 3 pages, but not a 1,000-page book, right? Maybe a dissertation or a paper for, your degree. So he had 100 copies of the Bhagavad Gita Xerox copied. And then he went out on the street, on the same street, and he approached people. And he told them that this is the best book I've ever read, and I made a copy for you, and I would like you to have it. And it cost me this much to print, so please help out with a donation. So I have a doubt. Did you know that having doubts is a sign of intelligence? So I have many doubts, so I must be very intelligent. You have to have the sign now that says, joke, you have to laugh. That's like, right? That's the sign where the sign goes on, laughter or applause. So, what is my doubt? This is a smaller gathering. We're in our group here, so we can share our doubts. What if we become a little too self-absorbed, a little too argumentative, a little too comfortable? Most of the spiritual movements, they started out quite revolutionary. They started out quite radical. And people were ready to sacrifice their lives for the great cause. Yet, over the decades and over the centuries and over the millennia, they oftentimes became very mundane. They became quite materialistic. and quite self-absorbed and usually quite irrelevant for the general public. So what is my doubt? What if the same thing happens to us? That we become a little too comfortable, a little too self-absorbed, a little too fat, and we lose our sense of mission and of purpose. It can happen. History repeats itself, right? So what if the same thing happens to us? But then I hear stories like this and I'm convinced that even if all of us here lose it, somebody somewhere in Siberia, somebody somewhere in Patagonia, near Coyhaique, somebody somewhere in the Sahel Desert or in a small town in Ruhrpott. Are there small towns in Ruhrpott? They still exist, right? We'll find the Bhagavad Gita and we'll read it and we'll decide, hey, this is it. This is the truth. We need to give this knowledge to other people. And they will go and print Bhagavad Gitas and they will start the process of Sankirtan again from scratch. I'm convinced of that. Yet we're already here. So why don't we just figure out how to take it to the next level from where we are? So that is what this seminar is about. Srila Prabhupada once said that I only have one criticism of my followers, that they don't read my books enough. I've done surveys over the last 4 decades in the few places that I've been. Usually less than 10% of our congregation has read all the books. And also less than 10% have the books. So there is some room for improvement on our own part. Srila Prabhupada got up every night at midnight without the help of an alarm clock, and he translated approximately 6 pages every night. Why? Because he felt our pain, he felt our suffering. He knew that people are suffering because of ignorance. And to alleviate that ignorance, he was willing to sacrifice his sleep to give us his Bhaktivedanta purpose, to give us the Bhagavatam, to give us Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yet, somehow we're so unfortunate that we think that, I'm a little too busy, you know? There's just too much going on in my life. Have you ever had the idea that I should be reading Prabhupada's books, but you just never got to it? Has this ever happened to you?
Yes.
Yeah? 3 people said yes. This is a good group, you know? I knew it. It was worth it coming here to Cologne. No? So many things that we have an idea and we have a plan, but we don't actually follow through. We don't really execute it. So we're going to speak a little bit about this because this is foundational. If you want to build anything of magnitude, you have to have a strong foundation. Without a strong foundation, it's not going to last. Anyone who's ever built a building knows that 20% of the cost of your construction goes into the ground. That's a lot of money. Imagine your building costs €1 million and you have to put 200,000 under the earth. No one will ever see it. You have to make a big hole first. Huh? You have to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. Then you have to put in a foundation. If you don't do it, then the houses will look like in Gaurnagar. You know Gaurnagar in Mayapur? It's like the Tower of Pisa. Have you seen the Tower of Pisa all of a sudden? And it looks cool for tourists, but you wouldn't want to live in that neighborhood, right? Because it's a little scary. Huh? So the same thing can happen to us. It sounds funny, but if all of a sudden your construct starts getting a little wacky, tacky, and it starts leaning towards the side, or there may be an earthquake, or there may be a hurricane or a typhoon. And I guarantee you, it's not an if. It's simply a question of when. Now please, turn all your phones off. Just off. Thank you. So, it's not a question if, it's only a question when it will happen. You will experience earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons, and all those things in your life, in one way or the other. The question is, are you prepared for them? And that really depends on your foundation. Books are the basis. What is the foundation of your Krishna consciousness? Do you know the philosophy? If people come and ask you, what does it say in your book there? Huh? What is that thing about that banyan tree, with the branches going down and the roots going up? What is that? Jai Shishi Gonita. What is that? What is meant by that example? And you say, banyan tree? Banyan tree? This Bhagavad Gita, nothing to do with botany. Why are you asking about the tree? Which chapter is the banyan tree?
15.
15. Huh? How does it start? Something with Mulam. Huh? Anybody? No? No? Okay, you got to read the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. The banyan tree is explained. Branches going down, roots going up. Sounds intriguing, right? So if people are going to ask you about that analogy and you have no clue, will they trust you? No. Why not? Because they figured out that you don't know what you're talking about. You're just trying to sell them a product. And you're just trying to make a buck. And that's just not good enough. So, we may not be very knowledgeable, we may not be that austere, we may not be that spiritually advanced, but we should not be hypocrites. If I ask you to do something that I'm not doing myself, that makes me a hypocrite. Ein Heuchler. Huh? Hitram, to have a hitram, to be, crooked, to have a different motive, to be duplicitous. That should not be our mentality. A spiritual practitioner should be a sadhu, which means sat, should be truthful. Huh? Otherwise people lose faith. And when they lose faith, they just don't want to hear from you. They don't want to associate with you. And they don't want to take what you have to offer. So, you may not have all the knowledge, because who can except Krishna and the pure devotees? Yet we should know the basics of the philosophy. That means start building your foundation by reading Prabhupada's books every day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya means every day you should read. How much should you read? At least one verse. Can you do that?
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes.
We need a verbal yes here. It's like if you want to sit in the exit row of the airplane, you have to give a verbal yes. Otherwise, they'll sit you to the back of the plane, next to the toilet. So, has there been days that went by where we did not read one verse? Has this happened to you? 2 people nod their heads, everybody else is doing perfect. This is a great class. I knew it. This is the master class. I knew it was worth coming here. So, ideally, you should read an hour or 2 every day. Now you may say, how am I going to do this? I have a very busy life. I have a job, I got family, I got a lot of service, I got things to do. Well, I got news for you. If you want to get something done, you ask a busy person. That's why we're talking to you. And not to the guys who are sitting down in the park with the beer cans. They have all the time in the world, but they're not going to do it. So, how are you going to find time to read Prabhupada's books? One way how to do it is the Prabhupada way. You get up early. Now, early may mean midnight, it may mean 2 o'clock, it may mean 3 or 4 o'clock, but get up before the sun gets up. And if you have family and kids, get up before the kids get up. Because once the kids get up, it's over. It's a different phase. So then you can read for half an hour, read for 1 hour before you chant japa. You can do that, even before Mangalarti. Of course, it starts the day before when you go to sleep. Can't stay up till midnight. You go to sleep after the sun goes down, you wind down, and then you go to sleep. And after 6 hours, you will wake up fresh and ready, and you will read Prabhupada's books. Have you tried that? Can you put it on your to-do list? Try it out for a week. See how you like it. Read Prabhupada's books before you start chanting japa. And I guarantee you, you will have a very focused japa. I read about Krishna this morning, who was bewildering Brahma. Bewildered Brahma so much that Brahma didn't know anymore what was up and what was down. He was scratching all his foreheads simultaneously because Krishna had utterly bewildered him. I'm not going to tell you the story, but it was quite something. Quite something. And when Brahma realized that he had made a big mistake, and he came back after just a moment of his time, 1 year of earthly time, he came to apologize and he offered prayers. And Krishna stood there with some yogurt and some fruit in his left hand. It was dripping from his hand. And he just looked at Brahma and went like, "Who are you talking to? Why are you talking so much? I'm just a cowboy. And I'm just looking for my friends." And Brahma realized that his presence was no longer required there, and he should go back to do his service of managing the universe. So when we read Prabhupada's books, we have amazing experiences. Have you ever had a problem? Anyone here? And then you open one of Prabhupada's books and Prabhupada gave you the answer, he gave you the solution right there in that verse that you read. Has this ever happened to you? Yes or yes? Please say yes. Thank you. That is why we should read Prabhupada's books every day. So you read before you chant japa, then you have Bhagavatam class, then you read some more during the day, because there's so much time that gets wasted throughout the day, right? You have to wait. People don't show up on time. Things don't work out the way you planned them. Always have a book with you. And instead of going on the phone and scrolling or doing stupid stuff, you just start reading Prabhupada's books. And I guarantee you, you will get 2 to 3 hours in every day. If you read 2 hours a day, within 2 years, you have read all of Prabhupada's books. Is that a good idea?
Yes.
It's a good idea, right? It's a good plan. Why don't you try it out? If you read 1 hour a day, it will take you 4 years to read all the books. But you got to start today. Then, japa. Srila Prabhupada said that 90% of our spiritual advancement comes from japa. Now I'm happy that you're chanting 64, 108, and 100 and, how many. But don't chant your 16 rounds while you're listening to class or while you're driving a car. You can chant extra rounds, that's perfectly fine. But your 16 rounds, you should chant them with undivided attention. Now we meet so many students, so many people every day, and they tell us that we don't want more things, we don't want more money, we don't want more stuff. We want quality time from our teachers, from our parents, from our friends, from our mentors. Yet we can only give them quality time, full undivided attention, if we have that full undivided attention. Because you can only give what you got. If you don't have it, you can't give it. So if we don't experience presence without distraction in our own japa, it will be very difficult to give it to others. Because when you interact with people, oftentimes you only have one moment. One moment. People have the attention span of goldfish. What is the attention span of a goldfish?
One moment.
One moment, yes. Did you have an aquarium? Or did your friends have an aquarium?
No.
Did you ever go to a glass bowl and you tapped on it and the fish came and the fish was there and the fish was gone? Because when the fish realized that there was no food, the fish was gone. So that is the attention span of most people. 1 second. But if you chant Hare Krishna attentively every day, then that one moment becomes eternity. Why? Because that one moment is Krishna. And Krishna is eternal time. And inside one moment can be eternity. In just one moment. And that's the power of the holy name. So if you want to improve your spiritual practice, your outreach, your book distribution, japa. Japa. Focused japa. Best you sit down. There's the 3 P's: posture, pronunciation, and prayer. Now those of you who have photographic memory, you can just take a screenshot of your mind and then all that is saved. Those who don't, you can write it down. Srila Prabhupada said that to remember means to write it down. To remember means?
To write it down.
Thank you. Can you remember that? If not, write it down. In this way, you can look it up and then you can actually do it. Otherwise, you will forget. Because Krishna says in the same book that I am knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And you will experience forgetfulness. So, the quality of our japa defines the impact of our outreach. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Who was the first person that Srila Prabhupada met when he came to the West? Any idea? I think I told the story in Münster. You don't remember?
Yeah, it was the Zoll driver, right?
Yeah. It was the Coast Guard off of Boston Harbor in his little boat. And Prabhupada waved from the Jaladuta, and that Coast Guard waved at Prabhupada. And 4 years later, he became a devotee. And then he took sannyas. His name is Chiyavana Swami. Chiyavana Swami. So Prabhupada had spent a lifetime in preparation. He got the instructions of his Gurudev to spread Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking language in 1922 on their first meeting. And it took him 43 years to prepare himself to write these books. Because he was just a newly married man, he had a young child, he had business. So he went through family life and he practiced Krishna consciousness, then he retired in Vrindavan, took sannyas, wrote the first canto of the Bhagavatam, and set out on the Jaladuta in 1965. 40 years later. And the first person he met was the Coast Guard. And he just glanced at him. And that glance just planted that seed in the heart of that person. And he came to Krishna consciousness. It's very much like that example of that Vaishnava who went to take bath in the river and said, the first person I will see, I'll initiate him. And it was a dead body floating down. Who was that devotee? Who remembers? So, and he touched that dead body, and as a young boy who had been bitten by a snake, and he came to life, and he gave him initiation. Then his parents found out, and he wanted to get him back. And he said, no, I'm not your son anymore. I'm his son. He gave me life. I'm going to stay with him. So, there's 4 laws in book distribution. Okay? Number 1, your sadhana must be strong. Your foundation has to be strong. That means reading Prabhupada's books every day and chanting attentive japa. Now, sometimes we've seen people chant all kinds of mantras. They chop things up and mix them around. And so pronunciation, try to actually pronounce the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And don't try to cut corners. Sometimes it's late at night and you see there's still two counter beads left. And you think, did I chant those? Or did I not chant those? Oh, I think I chanted them, right? But maybe not. Chant more. There's no harm in that. Actually, we should always chant Hare Krishna. But Prabhupada, very mercifully, he changed the number to 16 because he understood our situation. So that is foundational. Your sadhana must be strong. Then the next step is you got to get books, because we have done double-blind studies in many universities of the world. You can't distribute books that you don't have. Have you ever been in the situation that somebody looked at your neck beads and said, hey, are you a Hare Krishna? Do you have the Bhagavad Gita? And you say, nope, I don't have it. But you can get it. You can go, take a left and a right and a left and right and over the monkey bridge, and then, there somewhere, Köln, you start shouting Hare Krishna, and then there you get the Bhagavad Gita. No, you have to have the books. You got to carry books with you. So get books. Are you carrying books with you wherever you go? How many of you carry books with you wherever you travel? Not flyer, book. Book. No, not digital book. Printed book. Printed book. I was trying to board a flight in Mumbai, and we were in line, and one person in front of me turned around. Was an American businessman, a loud American, and he looked at me, and I was dressed like this, and he said, "What you trying to do here? You trying to be a monk or what?" And I reached into my bag, and I said, "Yes, I'm trying since 30 years, and this is for you. It's a gift for you." And he was like, because he had said something a little challenging, a little pointed, and he had received the gift. And his mind just went blank. And he said, "Can I give you something?" And I said, normally we don't take anything, but with you I will make an exception. And he said, well, what should I give? And I said, well, some people give their whole life. I said, well, if you can't do that, at least give $1 million, And then a lady was announcing the flight, so I knew I had a few seconds before the crowd starts moving. I said, just give 1,000 rupees. So he gave me 1,000 rupees, $13. The point I'm trying to make here is that carry books wherever you go, and people will appreciate it. Okay? So carry books. I know you all have your little sumchkis, your little handbags, and your little nice bags and fancy bags and sport bags and whatever kind of bags you're carrying. You better have one of the books in there, because otherwise it's just a bag, and who cares? But if there's a book inside, it's a Sankirtan bag, and then you can say, hey, this is my Sankirtan bag, Okay? So then nobody will be able to challenge and say, why are you wearing all this fancy stuff? You say, it's my Sankirtan bag, you know? I'm carrying Prabhupada's books here, okay? So carry Prabhupada's books with you wherever you go. And I guarantee you, when you walk out that door, you won't look into the world of how to get validation, how to get praise, how to get enjoyment. You won't look out into the world of how to control and enjoy, but you will look for where is that person that will get that book. I'm looking for that one person who will get that book. Are you that one person? And you will start being like Pariksha, the examiner. You will examine people according not to whether they look nice or not nice, but you will look and see the potential in them to take Krishna consciousness seriously. And I guarantee you that your world has just changed from being a world of selfishness, a world of insecurity, a world of scarcity, that there's not enough for everybody, to a world of abundance where you feel that I'm a giver. Prabhupada was challenged by an Indian man, and the Indian student said, you know, this religion thing is for the old people, you know, our grandparents are into this, but now we need technology, you know, because we have to catch up with the West and we have to prove how great we are. Prabhupada said, this, you see, is the difference between you and me. He said, you came to the West to beg for technology. I came to the West to give them Bhagavad Gita and Vedic culture. So I'm a giver, you're a beggar. And that's a fact. We were in Rishikesh with 12 friends chanting and dancing, and up at Lakshmanjula. And you know how it is in India, when you chant and dance, some people like it and they join in, and it becomes a big, big mosh pit. It just becomes a big group of people who are doing kirtan. So it caused a traffic jam. It just caused a whole ruckus. Nothing was moving anymore. So in the West, people would start honking and horning and yelling and calling the cops. But because it's India, people are pious. So what happened? They just got off their motorbikes and out of their cars and they just joined in. They just joined the kirtan. And it just became a big party. And everybody was chanting and dancing. There was one man, a professional beggar. He was sitting on the steps in front of the German bakery. Not a sadhu, but a professional beggar. It's his job to beg. So he looked at us and he watched us for about 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, he decided that I don't want to be a beggar anymore. This is boring. These guys are having more fun. I'm going to join them. So he picked up his cup and put it in his pocket, you know, his begging cup, and he put it in his pocket. And he came down and he joined us. And he was chanting and dancing. And after about 10 minutes, he started chanting and dancing very exuberantly, you know, like swaying and waving, and really had the moves. And about 5 minutes later, he got so ecstatic. He reached into his shirt pocket and he pulled out a big wad of money, rupee notes. And he waved it around and he showed everybody. And then he started putting money into all the pockets of all the participants, of all the people who were dancing there. And he was showing everybody, look, I'm not a beggar. I'm a generous person. So why are we asking people for a donation? Because we want to transform beggars into givers. Nothing is our property. We came with nothing, we're going to leave with nothing. All the toys go back on the shelf. The only thing we have that is ours is our little bit of free will. And if we give that to Krishna as a sacrifice, voluntarily, Krishna will be very pleased. So, by giving people the opportunity to contribute for the Sankirtan mission, we're turning them from beggars into charitable, into generous people. And that is the greatest gift that you can give to any person in this world. Because people are feeling disempowered. People are feeling undervalued. People are feeling they don't have a voice. They don't have meaning. They don't have purpose. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever met people who felt like that? It's a big problem. That's why the youth is very much disturbed and disillusioned, because they feel that we're unwanted. We're just not really required here. We got nothing to offer. Yet, if we connect people with the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they will feel the value of this process. Okay, rule number 1, your sadhana must be strong. Rule number 2, get books. Rule number 3, the more you show, the more you sell. You heard that before? Have you ever walked and window shopped? Do you ever do window shopping? Do you ever go and you just look at stuff? You don't. Do you ever online shop? You click on things and you look at things? You don't do that. You're pretty renounced. You're a very good group. I must congratulate you. Huh? But usually when you go to the marketplace, people say, try this, degustation, huh? Try this, eat this, touch this, smell this. Because they know that then, jayato visaya pungshan, sangaste shubhajayate, sangat sanjayate, kama karoda vijayate. While contemplating the object of the senses, attachment arises and then people want to have it. I was taking a flight from London to Dublin, and a man in a 3-piece suit was typing on his IBM ThinkPad next to me. I wanted to talk to him, but I could not talk to him because he was so busy typing. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? Any idea? Have you ever been in a situation where you didn't know what to do? Yeah. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? You take prasadam. So I just opened my bag and I had kachoris and samosas. Who likes samosas? Haribol. Who likes kachoris? Who likes both? Haribol. Yeah. So I started eating, and after 3 seconds, the man looked over and he said, "What religion are you?" And I said, "Do you want to try?" And I saw his mind freaking out. His mind said, no. You got to work now, my dear friend, okay? You're not going to touch this because your hands are clean, all right? You got work to do here. And his hand said, "You know what? Give me." And he started eating it because the hand has a mind of its own. That's why when you go to the grocery store, next to the cash register, there's all the sweets and the candies and the chewing gum and the magazines. So people just grab it and throw it on there mindlessly. So his mind said, "Don't do it." But his hand said, "Oh yeah, we're taking this. This is good stuff. I want this." And guess what? We had a conversation and he got a book. Now I could not distribute a book to this fellow. But the person who cooked that prasadam and gave me that prasadam distributed that book. Huh? I can tell you hundreds of stories like that. But I want you to have your own experience, your own stories. And that's why we're going out tomorrow and the day after, because Raja Vidya Raja Goyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyakshavagam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumagayam. This is the king of knowledge, or knowledge for kings. Why? Because it gives you pratyaksha, direct perception of the Supreme. You want to have a direct experience of Krishna, which you will get when you engage in his service. And Susukam Kartumagayam, this process is joyfully performed. It's joyful. There's a lot of happiness. There's a lot of joy in this. I was distributing books in front of the University of California in Berkeley, UC Berkeley, on Telegraph Avenue. And I met a young man, and he said, "You already asked me yesterday." And I said, "How do I know? You're wearing a mask. You masked people all look the same, you know? So how do I know?" He pulled down his mask. He had a big beard. And he said, "I'm a Muslim, but you're glowing. You're effulgent. I want what you have." I said, "Well, here it is. Take it, you know?" And he took the book and he gave a donation. People want to see the difference. So before you go out of your door, look into the mirror and ask yourself, would I like to meet this person? Would I like to spend time with this person? If not, why not? What can I change? Huh? And people don't care how much you know. They don't care how much you're worth. They don't care how much you have done in life. The only question they have is, are you going to make my life better? Or are you going to make me miserable? That's the only question they have. And that they will decide viscerally. Viscerally, it comes from here, not from here. That yes, I want what you have. I want to become like you. Or I want to be as far away from you as possible. And that means we have to practice what we preach. We have to apply the medicine on ourselves. So, number 1, strong sadhana. Number 2, get books. Number 3, the more you show, the more you sell. You have to actually take out the books and show them to the people. Put the book in their hand. Don't just talk about things. Hand the book to them. And you'll be surprised. Many people will say, yes, I know this. I was in Sheboygan, Michigan, near Mackinac Bridge, just below Canada, up in the very cold places, on a parking lot of the great institution called, we're not going to mention any names, but there's a big retailer who has a lot of stores all over the great country. And one man, middle-aged man with his son, teenage son, he looked at me and he saw the books and he said, Prabhupada is my favorite author. And his son looked at him and said, who? What? What, Daddy? Who are you talking about? And he had some explaining to do to his son, because the son didn't know what his dad was so much raving about, so much happy about. When people see the books, they will actually connect who you are and what you're doing. So make the books visible. Just like when people come here, there should be a book table. And you can also have a donation system that people can just take a book and put a donation or e-hundi or something, so people get actually this opportunity. A lot of books get distributed that way. And the 4th rule is you must organize. You have to be organized. Now, of course, you're in Germany, so you may say, hey, we're born organized. But that is all very relative. It's very subjective to your, because there's German and German, right? Don't the ones from the north consider the ones from the south a little sloppy and a little unorganized? There's always that, there's differences right? So, Prabhupada said this movement will spread by good intelligence and organization. So you can use what is the use of being German if you can't use your organizational talent to expand the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Krishna has given you one of the best countries in the world. There's 100 million people here. Now, we have very little visibility and very little impact at the moment. Why? Because we're not very organized. Sometimes people say, I don't believe in organized religion. And I say, that's perfect. This is the right thing for you. Because we're so disorganized that we don't even answer telephones, We don't bother to change the addresses in the books because we want people to really have to struggle and be, you have to really be sincere to find us. Because we keep on moving. And we just do this to make sure that the people who come to us, they're actually sincere, They're not just wishy-washy. So, now we got 29 minutes left. Today was the introduction. We spoke about foundational principles, what we're doing. We're trying to communicate a message. Why we're doing it, we want to please Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. Your homework is to write down your 108 reasons why you want to distribute books. Can you do that? Your 108 reasons why you want to distribute books. At least give me three burning reasons why you want to do this. Now you may say, hey, I'm living upstairs here and I figured there was some noise here, some guy telling jokes, so I might as well show up and peek in, right? That's not a good enough reason. It's a good enough reason to be here now, but that won't get you on the street tomorrow or next week. You have to have a better reason than that. Formerly people came to the Hare Krishna movement because They wanted to get free from pain. They were looking for some wisdom. Sometimes they wanted to buy or sell drugs, or they wanted to find a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Any reason is a good enough reason to come to the Hare Krishna temple. But it's not a good enough reason to stay at the Hare Krishna temple. So feel free to upgrade your goals and your desires. And a very good way to do that is to study Prabhupada's life and his mood and mission, and to imbibe that. Yasyadeveta ta bhaktir yatadeveta ta gurau tasyaite katita hirta prakashante mahatmana. To imbibe the mood and mission of the spiritual master and serve it in humility and dedication will attract the mercy of the spiritual master, which will then enable us to actually understand the Vedic wisdom. All the imports of the Vedic teachings will become revealed in your heart. The zip file will unzip. And you will be stunned of the magnitude that just got revealed to you, simply by the mercy of the spiritual master. So we spoke about foundational principles, about the what and the why. Tomorrow we're going to speak about the how to distribute books. We're not going to get into this today, because today is the foundation, the introduction. We got 26 minutes for questions, comments, reflections, realizations. Hare Krishna. It's very inspiring. We're here today because of the sacrifices, the prayers and the tears of our ancestors, the ones who have built this society, who went out alone with a small pair of cartels, with a leaflet, with one small book, and sat on the street and chanted in Hamburg, in Munich, in Cologne. That's why we're having this beautiful temple now today. So as a token of gratitude, let us accept these gifts and share it amongst ourselves, and then expand the mission by sharing it with each and every person that we meet in our life. Any questions? Yes?
What is the topmost reason why you distributing books?
The topmost reason why I distribute books, Prabhupada felt my pain, he felt my confusion. I met him in my boarding school in the Swiss Alps in 1984, in a form of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, part 1, and it changed my life. I didn't understand all of it. There's a lot of big words that I never heard before, like transcendental. It's a big word, you know. If you're a 15-year-old kid and you never heard or read anything like that, wow, there's a lot of big words in this book. Like students sometimes in the colleges, they say, wow, there's a lot of words in this book. I say, yeah, you know, it's called education, you know. That's what we're here for. So, but I love books and I loved reading, and the more I read, the more things made sense, the more things were clear. And I want people to have the same experience, so that they can't say, I didn't know, nobody told me. Because this knowledge should be widely available. I was just in Iceland, distributing books in front of the big church there, and I met a big man, a real Viking, and he said, I have to go to church now. He's calling me. And I liked it, the way how he talked about God, that God is calling him and he has to go to pray to meet his God. And I liked that. I said, okay, here, take this. I gave him a Beyond Birth and Death. And Jenseits von Raum und Zeit, is this Beyond Birth and Death? Yeah. Yeah. Jenseits von Raum und Zeit, was ist das? Yeah. Easy journey to other planets. Exactly. I always mix the two up because languages, sorry. So anyhow, no, it wasn't Easy Journey to Other Planets. It was Beyond Birth and Death in English. And he looked at it and he said, oh, looks very interesting. yes, what can I give you for this? I don't have very much. I said, well, you know, anything is fine. So he said, 1 second. He checked. He took out his phone and he scrolled, checked his account, and he said, I can only give you 200 euros. Is that enough? I said, well, I guess it will have to do, you know, it's fine. So then he went in, he prayed, he came back, we sat down together on the bench together, and he said, you know, I like you. I would like to support you. I said, well, you already did. He said, no, this is nothing. I want to support what you're doing. I like that, you know, you're trying to help people by giving them this knowledge. So how can we stay in touch? I said, I don't do social media, this or that, but you can send me a WhatsApp. So in the evening, he sent me a WhatsApp. He said, I started reading your book. The first page, it says that you're not this body, you're a soul. I couldn't agree more with this. Everybody needs to have this information. Now, he's an ER doctor. He's the Notarzt. He's the first person people see when they come to the main hospital in Reykjavik. He has seen 70,000 patients in the last 20 years. And he said, that's the main problem. People don't know who they are. They don't know that they're the soul, that they're eternal. That's why they're so much in trouble when something goes wrong with the body. So I want to help you. And he got me to visit him that evening. He was very, very generous. We had a good discussion. And later on, he sent me a text and he said, you know, I have a real problem. 3 months ago, the priest who was counseling me, who was giving me counsel, he left the church and he's gone. And I feel like I'm an orphan. I feel like I have nobody to talk to about the things that really matter in my life. Can you be that person? Can you be that person and be there? I said, well, if you think I can, then I guess I can, you know, but that's up to you to decide, not up to me. I'd be happy to assist you. So we've been discussing, and it's been quite interesting. So why am I saying this? Because this is the main reason why I go out. Because yes, I meet Prabhupada when I read his books, but I also meet Prabhupada when I see the change in people, when they get in touch with Prabhupada's teachings. And that gives me so much taste, so much faith, so much enthusiasm, that it's worth it to take the little bit of hardship that comes with it. Okay? There are other reasons, but I don't want to get too autobiographical here, and I don't want to influence your homework because you're supposed to find out your own reason. Okay? So don't try to trick me to give you all the answers here. Other questions? Yes?
Actually, I got 2 questions. Thank you very much for the
Sure, go ahead.
lecture. So last year I made when we went out in the street last year, and I thought actually it might be pretty easy for me because I'm communicative and I was sold things, I got used to it. But when I was on the street, I just realized that my false ego was that strong that it was really difficult for me to give this knowledge, because right now I feel very inspired, but when you're out there on the street and everyone is ignoring you and your false ego is telling you, you're a serious woman, you have a serious job, you don't have to do this, you don't have to feel like a beggar, oh please look at my book. And this was a real inner struggle where I felt that my false ego is just attacking me, and I'm like, I wasn't able to distribute more than 3 books, and then afterwards my enthusiasm stopped, and now we are organizing Harinams because it's something different. But anyway, just wanted to ask how to overcome this inner obstacles.
Thank you for sharing your struggle, for your sincerity. It is a good thing. To know one's weakness is your strength. If you think everything's fine with you, that's your problem. Everybody who comes and sees the doctor, usually they say, I'm fine, you know, doctor, I'm fine. And he says, yeah, just lay down here and we'll see how fine you are, okay? Now initially we all think, I'm okay, everything's great. But when push comes to shove, when things get tested in the school of life, then we see where our real attachments, where our real insecurities, where our real problems are. And that's really helpful. Because without resistance, you cannot build up any strength. What question is there of glorious victory if there's no struggle to attain it? Huh? So, now, how to overcome all these how-to questions are answered by you follow the process of Krishna consciousness. Because by hearing and chanting and reading and associating and serving, you'll gain more and more taste and conviction, and Krishna will empower you. Krishna will empower you through the practice of Krishna consciousness. Now, sometimes we get a little afraid or annoyed or bewildered because we're not that comfortable being in a situation where we feel that we're not in control. Do you like comfort zone? Anyone here likes comfort zone? Yeah? If not, please come up and stand right here in front of everybody. If you don't like comfort zone, you could do this, right? But obviously we like our space and we like our image and our idea of who we are and what we do in this world. Yet when we go out, Krishna will rock our boat. Krishna will challenge our beliefs. And that is a good thing, because we have to really dig a little deeper and see what are my real convictions and what is superfluous, what is just a figment of my imagination. On the street, nobody cares how many diplomas you have, how many millions you have on the bank, how many companies you run. They don't care about all that stuff. The only thing they care about is they want to know, do you care about me? Or you're just going on your own chariot of your own mind. And then there's just egos clashing against each other. So I have to lower my levels of defense mechanism, my false ego, and just be my true, real self. Be a little humble. Be a little vulnerable. When I started distributing books, I was 15 years old. And I went out and I told the people, I'm a monk. We're giving this great knowledge to everybody. And people looked at me and they went like, does your mother know that you're here? Old ladies would go, this is Switzerland, they would go and get me chocolates, you know. They wanted to give me chocolate. And said, I'm a monk, we don't eat chocolate. And the old lady went, ooh. It really hurt her, you know. So next time I said, okay, I'll accept it and I'll give it to a devotee who likes chocolate. Don't be an idiot. So my point is that Krishna knows our attachments. And he knows how to help us to overcome them. And Sankirtan is Chaitadarpanamarjan. This is the purification of the heart. Sooner or later, I have to face myself. I have to overcome my obstacles. Otherwise, I'll have to be born again. And I think we already decided that we don't want that. We don't want to come again to do our homework. Now, we're going to talk tomorrow about how to interact with people and how to make the experience a little more fun and a little more exciting for everybody and a little more productive. Yet, once I know that I'm a spirit soul, I'm eternal, I'm wise, and I'm blissful by nature. This is my inherent nature. Nothing and no one can disappoint you. Nobody can stop you if you're aware just of those foundational principles of Krishna consciousness. But how often are we aware of them, and how often do we forget them? It's very easy to get caught up in your own little story, right? And then, oh, why did this person not pay attention? Why did this person say no? Why did this person... So, work in progress, inconvenience caused, regretted. It takes time. Utsaha nishayat daryat tat karma pravartanat sangotyaga satovrite sadbir bhaktir prasiditi. Rupa Goswami says about utsaha, enthusiasm means to endeavor with intelligence in Krishna consciousness. That is enthusiasm. And after that comes dharyat, which means, what means dharyat?
Patience.
No. Utsahan nishchayat. Yeah, dharyat is patience. And nishchayat?
Determination.
Determination, yes. So you have to be enthusiastic, you have to be determined. and you have to be patient. And that's tough. That's hard, right? Because we want it all and we want it now. But that's not how things work. So you got to be patient. And Krishna will empower you in due course of time. To become expert at anything will take you 10,000 hours. How long have you been doing this filming thing?
It took years.
It took years, yes. 10,000 hours is 7 years full-time dedication to one thing. Are you willing to put in 7 years to become expert? This is like being a heart surgeon, you know, you're doing open heart surgery on people. You say, excuse me, you have a moment, and then bzz, you zap them, you cut them open, you know, you open them up, you take out all the bad stuff, you put in all the good stuff, you tape them back together, right? They don't sew them, they tape them nowadays, you know. And then, boom, 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 you wake them back up and you put them back on the road. That's what happens. You can't just do that in a, you know, okay, yeah, I meet many people who are educated in the University of YouTube. Have you heard of the University of YouTube? Or the University of TikTok? You know, they clicked on a few little cute videos and they think, now I know how it works. Huh? I know everything about cooking, about filming, about business. I know everything about everything. But actually they know nothing about nothing. You have to really put in the effort. And that means learning how to deal with rejection. Learning how to deal with people who make you compliments. They will say, oh, you look so beautiful. And then you know, if it's too good to be true, it most likely is. Huh? Ati Bhakti Chorero Lachan. If somebody had too much devotion is the sign of a thief. If somebody comes and praises you, check your wallet. See if your stuff is still there. Huh? So you can't be naive. It's a war. It's a battlefield out there. There's a lot of creatures. There's a lot of critters. There's a lot of weird people. But if we are solid in our practice, then Krishna in our heart will give us the intelligence. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashiti. Krishna says, already you, Arjuna, you declare it. I'll protect my devotee. Huh? Krishna will protect you. He may not protect your false ego, but he will protect your soul. He may not give you what you want, but he'll give you what you need. You understand the difference, right? Between needs and wants? Okay? All right, we'll speak more. Other questions? We got 10 minutes. We're going to start and end on time because this is Germany.
I have another question.
Yes.
So while we are distributing, sometimes they will ask what this book says. Maybe with a little bit of practice we could say this is what the Gita says. But if they really start quizzing us, I don't think I'm that conceptually very strong to answer every question.
You don't have to. You can just say, I'm new at this. You know, I'm a master student of mechanical engineering and I crammed a lot of data into my brain and I'm really happy to be here in your great country. But I read this book and it's good stuff and it works. And I would like you to have it. That's honesty. That's authenticity. That's sincerity. And I tell you, people will appreciate that. But if you tell them, I am knowing everything, then you will meet a lot of people who will say, oh really? You're knowing everything? Okay. All right. Let's test that, you know? And then you'll have a debate. And tarko pratishta shruteyo vibhina, because it's pratishta, it's based on ego. So it will just be a clash of egos. And it's pointless. It's just not productive because they won't get a book, you won't win your argument, and everybody goes home not very happy. And that's what often happens. So don't go down that street. After I realized at my bright old age of 15 that maybe I'm not the monk yet, I started telling people, I'm a student. And they looked at me and they said, yeah, he's a kid. He's a student, yeah. Can I help you? Can I do something for you? And I say, yeah, you can, you know? You can. We have this little experiment here where we're trying to give people these books and they give donations and would you like to participate? They say, yeah, sure, you're a nice guy, you know, you're a nice kid. Let me help you. But if you tell them that I am a Brahmin and I'm coming from very great tradition and I'm going to tell you now how it is because that's the way how grandmother said it is, then a lot of people will not agree with you. They will challenge that type of didactic. So we have to learn how to present things in an attractive, relevant and impactful way. And that means we have to be aware, again, Sambandha, of who we are and who our audience is. If you're in Bharat, if you're in India, you can rely on Shastra and a lot of people will know Shastra and respect Shastra. If you're outside of that group, like if you're outside of academia, you can't use the academic approach because people will not know the language, nor the methods, the methodology that you're using. So you have to be able to connect with your audience in a relevant, tasteful and impactful way. Otherwise you're just not very productive. Okay? Yes?
Prabhuji, you mentioned the 4 laws for
Yes.
book distribution. I didn't quite understand the 4th one. Was it to be organized? Or
Yes.
Okay.
You have to organize because you're busy. You got school, you got work, you got so many things to do. So make a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You have a plan. My friend here gets a lot of things done. He said he has to work it out by the 15-minute slots. I was yesterday night till this morning staying with a friend in Nuremberg who is a physiotherapist, and I saw his schedule, totally booked out for weeks, totally booked out. But he's very organized, and he sees between 15 to 30 people every day. And he does a lot of other stuff, and he's a devotee, and he runs the center in Nuremberg. Why? Because he's an organized person. So use your talents and become organized, and you'll all of a sudden get a lot more done. You had a second question.
Yes, it was regarding the reading before the chantings. How should we read? For example, I mean, the Bhagavad Gita, just read or think about it or read with others.
There's different types of reading. First of all, you should just read through it. Just read all the books. Then, second time around, take notes. Then discuss them with friends. You have friends, right? Do you have friends? Yeah? Just checking. I don't mean these 5,000 people on the internet, you know, I mean like real people, like real friends. So you get down together with your friends and you have a little study group and you say, let's discuss what we read. And you compare notes and you share your hearts on it. So in this way you go deeper into the topic. But first of all, you want to have an overview. What is it? Then you start taking notes, then you start discussing them, then you start writing things, you know, essays. You may be so bold and daring to do Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta. You just get yourself another few degrees. And then early on you will be tempted to go out and try out this knowledge and see how it actually plays out in the real world. You apply it, sharing it with others, and that will be quite a tremendous experience because you will see how the things that you read in the books actually apply in real life. Oftentimes I go up to people and I just say, okay, let's check this out, and I just open one page and, you know, like here, it says about the 3 modes of material nature, that the mode of goodness creates real knowledge, the mode of passion creates greed, and the mode of ignorance creates illusion, madness, and Dummheit, how do you say in English? Madness. Yeah. Madness. And people will say, wow, did you just make this stuff up? No, that's just what I read here. That's what the book is, you know, it's for you. This is so good, you can't make this up. This is coming directly from the Supreme. And people will appreciate it. Okay? So there's different levels of reading. But sometimes when time is short, you may just have a few favorite verses or a couple of prayers or a few things that you just repeat and puts you in the zone, puts you in your state. So always keep your nectar collection of verses and quotes and stories ready. That when life gets a little rough, and you're in the traffic jam and you think like, then you have the choice of either freaking out or you just say, hey, it's shloka time. And you just take out your collection of verses and stories and your nectar file and you just go through that. And all of a sudden people start honking behind you because it's time to move. So we can't change the world, but we can change the way how we respond to the world. That's our choice. Okay? Last question. Yes?
According to prospects and like small like flyer things, is it also good to be creative, like for example to develop something by ourselves and then try to distribute that? For example YouTube or I don't know, things like this. Or
First read all of Prabhupada's books and get some experience in the foundational practices of Krishna consciousness. I have a lot of times young people who come to me and say, yeah, I'm going to do my YouTube channel and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And usually when they're in their 20s or 30s, I try to discourage them from starting to work on their autobiography. I'll tell them, why don't you live life a little bit before you release your autobiography? Because maybe the best stuff is yet to come. And if your book is already out, then it's really not that great. So, but one thing with artistic minds is never to discourage people. Like Prabhupada, he treated every person who walked through the door as a future leader of the Hare Krishna movement. And there was quite a few funky people walking through the door. One time people asked Prabhupada, who is a hippie? Is obviously in India. Prabhupada said something very extraordinary. He made big eyes. So, and you know what happened? These people became the future leaders of the Hare Krishna movement. And they spread the movement all over the world. And some did exceptionally wonderful things. And some did a few stupid things, but overall everybody got the benefit for all that they did for Krishna. So when somebody asks me, should I do social media or should I do my YouTube channel or this or that? My question usually is, why do you want to do it? What's your intention? Do you want to build your brand? Do you want to build your fan base? Do you want to build your, product? Do you want to sell stuff? Or do you want to communicate Krishna consciousness? Why not first absorb yourself a little bit in Prabhupada's teachings and read all the books? And then once you have absorbed that knowledge, then you can communicate it through different mediums. And YouTube may be one of them. But you should also try to give people books directly. Go on Harinam, distribute prasadam.
Sometimes it's very difficult, and I found it easier to distribute flyer.
Yeah, of course. I remember when I was Bhaktaniko, I went out and I learned how to give flyers to everybody. I became irresistible. I knew all the moves, how to make sure they got that flyer and that piece of halava. And it was really exciting. And it was a good training for me. But then after that, I was ready to distribute books. I wanted to take it to the next level. So I'd like to encourage you. You're already expert at distributing flyers. That's wonderful. So take it to the next level. Learn how to distribute cookies. One for you, one for me. One for you, one for me. Huh? It works. It's great. Huh? And then you start to distribute books. You're very fortunate because you're young in life and you're young in Krishna consciousness. So don't limit yourself. But if your mind tells you, no, you can only do this and you can't do that, how do you know? You don't know who you are. You don't know what your potential is. Krishna Shakti Vinanahitar Pravartana. Krishna can empower anybody. Huh? I was distributing books at a music concert, and I left my piles of books for a while because I had to go somewhere and do something that only I could do. And then I came back, and there was a young man there. He had the boxes open, and he was just blissfully handing out books to everybody. Not taking any donations. He was just the most generous man on the planet. He was just giving out free books to everybody. And he was very effulgent. He was very ecstatic. And I said, excuse me, sir, I appreciate it. How can you be so much in ecstasy doing that? You don't know even what you're doing. I appreciated him. Obviously, the donation part, he didn't have that down, but he was so ecstatic handing out books that he felt really blissful and empowered. So don't limit yourself by what your mind tries to tell you that you are not capable of doing this. Have you ever had that kind of dialogue with your mind?
Yes.
And you know what your attitude, what your response should be? Like Dhruva Maharaj. What was Dhruva Maharaj's response when his stepmom told him he can't sit on the lap of your dad? His mood was, I'm going to show them. Have you ever had that attitude? I'm going to show them? Never underestimate the attitude of I'm going to show them. Huh? But make sure you choose the right kind of thing. So it's actually meaningful. It's something Krishna conscious. So thank you for your kind attention. I appreciate that you came all the way over here. I know some of you came from faraway places, and it's good to see Keshava Prabhu and some other old friends here. And yeah, this is a very historic place. A lot of wonderful events have transpired here and have expanded from here. And I'm fully convinced, because this area is the creative capital of the country, that Krishna consciousness can expand from here in a very impactful, tasteful, and relevant way. So, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. We will have some more time for interaction, and today we discussed what we're doing and why we're doing it. Your homework is to write down your own reasons, and tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about how to do it. How to actually stop people, how to give them the book, how to find out what they're interested in, how to get them to make a contribution, and then also follow up and whatever is part of it. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Trivyasadavyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. I don't know if you got anything of value today.
Das war voll krass. Ja, wir haben das, was ich haben wollte. Okay. Die Kamera liebt dich.
Ja, meinst du?
Ja, da weißt du, wie das sind wir so aus. Also die Kamera, das ist so dieses Genre, weißt du.